Another thing that you should remember about your great-grandmother, I'm talking now to the great-grandchildren, was what really a great poet she was. But before I tell about that, I'd like to remember she was a great sewer too. I knew a neighbor lady who saw the handmade rug. It was just made out of scraps of rags and stuff that she would, find and cast off things and made a rug out of it. She made lots of rugs and braided them up and then sewed them together so they would make loop rugs. And she made a rug. Her biggest project was one for the stairway that I hope is still there in the house. They decided to keep it because it's so pretty. But I remember a neighbor lady saw her handmade rug that she made out of rags, but it was beautiful, and it covered the stair steps. And the neighbor lady was going to make an area rug. She was inspired by that. But then she got to where she made one that was about 1 foot by 8 foot, and gave up and said, "I don't know how in the world, Irene does it. Like all these rugs, and like, she was going to make a 5 foot by 8 foot area rug, but only wound up making 1 foot by 8 foot, and then gave up and said, didn't know how my mother ever did it, She was my mother was inspired, but she should be, she should be an inspiration for the young children, like I'm talking now to the great-grandchildren. She should be an inspiration for you. The way that she led her life, she did all these things for other people. She herself was inspired by her family. Her mother lost her mother when she was at an early age, and they grew up being raised by her aunt. Her name was Aunt Mary, and she was inspired by her they had a neighbor named Phoebe, and one of the things about it is that she wanted all of her life to be buried in that family plot, and made the arrangements for it. It took some doing, but now she's with her beloved Phoebe, who helped her, raise her mother and her mother's family. She was inspired by them, by all of them, and her prayer and her life was inspired by her own mother. But one of the things that people should know about her was what a great poet she was. She gave a recital once at the Schuster Center, but she didn't even tell me. Went down there to the lobby of the Schuster Center, and so that I could be there, she just went down there on her own and recited her poems to people there. I'd like to read a couple of her poems. This is called Empty Arms. Sometimes it seems that in my mind I hear a baby cry, and though I search I cannot find the sound that flutters by. My empty arms reach out to hold a child who is not there. I draw them back and they are cold as winter's air. And then a night when sleep evades, I hear a cradle's song. I try before the music fades, but cannot sing along. The years may come, the years may go, but one thing stays the same. My precious child will never know that mother is my name. She said her friend Agnes told her that she wished for a grandchild, and it would never happen to her. Just listening to her speak of this yearning inspired this. It was about her friend Agnes, who wishes that she could have had grandchildren of her own. She was quite a poet. I wish I could see my mother's face. It's been so long, you know. No one else can take her place. That's why I need her so. I wish I could be home this year, just like I used to be, with all the ones I hold most dear around the Christmas tree. I'd like to sit in the twilight and watch the snow fall down, and watch as twilight turns to night in my dear old hometown. I want to hear the church bells chimes early on Christmas morn, when all the world recalls the time when our Savior was born. These are the things for which I pray here in this far-off place. I want so much on Christmas Day to see my mother's face. That was written during World War II, probably 1942. It's called A Soldier's Christmas Wish. She has a collection that's so 30 pages. Joan has them on her computer if anybody wants to see them. But I want to talk about, how she was really inspired by her Aunt Mary and Phoebe,